The classroom was very big. It could hold 300 students, and today every seat was full. Young cadets from 12 different species sat together, their bodies different in every way. Some had blue skin, some had 4 arms. Some floated in special chairs because they came from low-gravity worlds. But they all wore the same uniform of the Galactic Academy, and they all looked at the front of the room with excited eyes. Instructor Bora walked to the center of the stage. She was tall and thin, with pale purple skin and large black eyes. Her species, the Valori, were known as great teachers. They lived for 400 years and spent most of that time collecting knowledge. Bora had taught at the academy for 60 years, and she was very proud of her work. Today's lesson was special. It was the first day of planetary classification studies, a class that every cadet had to take. Bora touched a button on her wrist, and the lights in the room went down. A giant hologram appeared above her head, showing a beautiful blue and green planet spinning slowly in space. "Good morning, cadets," Bora said. Her voice was soft but clear. "Today we begin your education about the universe. You will learn about stars, moons, and most importantly, planets. You will learn which worlds can support life and which worlds cannot." She waved her hand, and the hologram changed. Now it showed a planet covered in fire. Rivers of red lava flowed across its surface. Mountains exploded with smoke and ash. The cadets made sounds of fear and wonder. "This is what we call a Class 7 world," Bora explained. "The surface temperature is over 800 degrees. No life can exist here. The rock itself is liquid in many places." She changed the image again. This time the planet was covered in thick yellow clouds. Lightning flashed inside the clouds every few seconds. "Class 8. The atmosphere is pure acid. One breath would destroy your lungs in less than a second. Rain on this world would eat through metal." The cadets whispered to each other. A young Mirathi student with silver scales raised his hand. "Instructor, has anyone ever tried to land on these worlds?" Bora smiled. It was a good question. "Yes, Doha. Many times. In the early days of space travel, explorers did not know what they would find. Ships landed on worlds like these and were destroyed instantly. Crews died before they could send a message home. We learned our lessons with blood and tears." She changed the hologram once more. The next planet was worse than the others. It had violent storms that covered half its surface. The other half was covered in ice. Strange shapes moved in the clouds, and the cadets could see massive waves crashing against frozen shores. "Now we come to the most important part of today's lesson," Bora said. Her voice became serious. "What you see here is a Class 12 world. We have a special name for planets like this. We call them Deathworlds." The word hung in the air like smoke. Deathworlds. Even the sound of it was frightening. "A death world is a planet where everything is trying to kill you," Bora continued. "The weather is extreme. The animals are dangerous. The plants are often poisonous. Even the smallest creatures can end your life. Bacteria, viruses, fungi, all of them evolved to attack and consume other living things." She pressed another button, and a list appeared next to the hologram. It showed all the things that made a death world deadly. High gravity, extreme temperatures, unstable geology, active volcanoes, frequent earthquakes, hurricanes, tornadoes, and floods, predators at every level of the food chain, and radiation from the star that the planet orbits. A Fenari cadet named Somi raised one of her 4 hands. She was small and covered in soft brown fur. "Instructor Bora, if these worlds are so dangerous, how do we know so much about them?" "Excellent question, Somi. We have sent many probes to study death worlds from orbit. We have also sent robots to the surface. Most of these robots were destroyed within hours. But they sent back valuable data before they died." Bora walked across the stage slowly. Her footsteps made no sound. The important thing for you to understand, she said, is that Deathworlds are unreachable. No sentient species can survive on them. No civilization can develop there. The conditions are simply too harsh. Life might exist on these worlds, but it would be primitive. Simple bacteria, perhaps. Small plants. Nothing more. She looked out at the sea of young faces. 300 cadets from across the galaxy, all of them learning the same truth. The universe is vast, Bora said. There are billions of planets out there, but only a small number of them can support intelligent life. These are the worlds we call garden worlds, Class 1 through Class 4. They have mild weather, stable ground, and gentle creatures. That is where civilization grows. That is where all of you come from. She smiled warmly at her students. You are the children of garden worlds. Your ancestors evolved on planets where the sun was kind and the water was clean. Where the biggest danger was perhaps a large herbivore stepping on you by accident. You are lucky. You are blessed. The cadets nodded and smiled at each other. They came from many different worlds, but they all shared this truth. Their homes were safe and beautiful. Death worlds exist, Bora concluded. But they exist only in our databases and our nightmares. No ship has ever landed on one and returned. No explorer has ever walked on their surface and lived to tell the story. They are unreachable, and they will remain unreachable forever. She was about to move on to the next topic when she noticed something. In the back row, almost hidden in the shadows, a hand was raised. Bora stopped. She squinted her large black eyes, trying to see who it was. The hand belonged to a small figure sitting alone at the end of the row. A figure with pale skin, dark hair, and two simple eyes that reflected the light of the hologram. It was the human girl, the one who had arrived at the academy just 3 days ago, the one whose file was mostly empty because her species was so new to the galaxy, the one named Una. Bora felt a strange feeling in her stomach. She did not know why, but something told her that the next few minutes would change everything. "Yes?" she said. "Do you have a question, Cadet Una?" The girl did not lower her hand. She did not blink. She just sat there, looking at the hologram of the death world with an expression that Bora could not understand. And then she spoke. "That planet," Una said quietly. "It looks like home." The room went completely silent. 300 cadets turned to look at the human girl in the back row. Bora felt the strange feeling in her stomach grow stronger. "I'm sorry," she said. "What did you say?" Una finally lowered her hand. She looked directly at Instructor Bora, and there was no fear in her eyes. There was no joke in her voice. There was only truth. "I said it looks like home," Una repeated. "I walked Earth barefoot." The silence in the room was so heavy that it felt like a living thing. 300 cadets sat frozen in their seats, their eyes fixed on the small human girl in the back row. Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Even the soft hum of the hologram projector seemed to fade away. Instructor Bora stood at the center of the stage, her purple skin turning a shade lighter. In 60 years of teaching, she had never heard anyone say something so impossible. She opened her mouth to speak, but no words came out. Her mind was racing, trying to understand what she had just heard. "I'm sorry," she finally managed to say. "Could you repeat that, Cadet Una?" Una stood up from her seat. She was small compared to most of the other cadets. The Fenari students were twice her height. The Groxy were 3 times her weight. But when she stood, there was something about her that made her seem bigger than she was. "I said that planet looks like my home," Una said again. Her voice was calm and steady. "Earth. I was born there. I grew up there. I walked on its surface with no shoes. I swam in its oceans. I climbed its mountains. I lived there for 18 years before I came to the academy." Whispers began to spread through the classroom like wind through grass. The cadets turned to each other, their faces showing confusion and disbelief. Some of them laughed nervously. Others looked scared. A Marathi student named Doha raised his hand quickly. His silver scales caught the light of the hologram. "Instructor Bora, that cannot be true," he said loudly. "You just told us that no sentient species can survive on a death world. She must be joking. Humans must come from a garden world like the rest of us." Bora nodded slowly. Yes, that made sense. The girl must be confused. Perhaps Earth was a Class 3 or Class 4 world, and she simply did not know the difference. That happened sometimes with new species. They did not understand the classification system. "Cadet Yuna," Bora said carefully, "I think there may be some misunderstanding. Your planet, Earth, what is its climate like? Is it warm, cold? Does it have gentle seasons?" Yuna tilted her head to the side, thinking about the question. "It depends on where you are," she said. "Some parts are very hot. The deserts can reach 50 degrees. Some parts are very cold. The poles can reach -80 degrees. Most places have 4 seasons. In winter, water freezes and falls from the sky. In summer, the heat can kill you if you stay outside too long." The whispers grew louder. Bora raised her hand for silence. "What about the weather?" she asked. "Are there storms on your planet?" "Yes," Yuna said simply. "Many kinds. Hurricanes come from the ocean. They can be 1,000 kilometers wide. Tornadoes come from the sky. They spin fast enough to throw houses into the air. There are also thunderstorms, blizzards, floods, and droughts. Sometimes the ground shakes and buildings fall down. Sometimes mountains explode and cover entire cities in ash." The Fenari cadet named Somi made a small crying sound. Her brown fur was standing up in fear. "That sounds horrible," she whispered. "How does anyone survive?" Yuna shrugged. It was a simple human gesture that meant, "I don't know," or "It's not a big deal." To the alien cadets, it looked very strange. "We build strong houses," Yuna said. "We watch the weather and move away from danger when we can. Sometimes we cannot escape and people die. It happens." "People die?" another cadet repeated. "From the weather?" "Yes. Every year thousands of humans die from weather. Floods kill the most. Hurricanes, tornadoes, heat waves, cold waves. The weather is always dangerous." Bora felt her legs grow weak. She walked to her desk and sat down on the edge, trying to keep her balance. This could not be real. This had to be some kind of mistake. "What about the animals?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Surely the animals on your world are peaceful?" Yuna actually laughed. It was a soft, quiet laugh, but it sent chills down the spines of every cadet in the room. "No," she said. "Earth has many predators: lions, tigers, bears, wolves. In the ocean there are sharks. They have rows of sharp teeth and can smell blood from kilometers away. There are also crocodiles. They wait under the water and drag their prey down to drown. Snakes have poison that can stop your heart. Spiders have poison that can make your flesh rot away." Somi covered her face with all 4 hands. Other cadets were starting to look sick. "Even the small animals are dangerous," Yuna continued. "Mosquitoes carry diseases that have killed billions of humans throughout history. Bees and wasps can sting you, and if you are allergic, you die. Jellyfish float in the ocean and burn you with their tentacles." "Stop!" a voice called out. It was Taiho, a young Groxy cadet with gray skin and a heavy build. He was bigger than most other students, but right now he looked like a scared child. "This cannot be true. You are making this up." Yuna turned to face him. Her expression did not change. "I am not making anything up," she said quietly. "I am telling you about my home. I have not even mentioned the bacteria and viruses. On Earth, there are tiny living things that you cannot see. They get inside your body and make you sick. Some of them can kill you in days. Some of them can kill you in hours. But how do you survive?" Taiho demanded. "How does any species survive on a world like that?" We fight, Una said. We build walls and weapons. We create medicine to kill the bacteria. We develop technology to predict the weather. We learn which animals are dangerous and stay away from them, or we hunt them first. She paused for a moment, looking out at the sea of frightened faces. On Earth, everything is trying to kill you from the moment you are born. The sun can burn your skin and give you cancer. The water can drown you. The air can carry diseases. The ground can open up and swallow you. The animals can eat you. The plants can poison you. Even other humans can hurt you. She took a deep breath. But we survive. We always survive. Because that is what humans do. The classroom was completely silent again. Bora sat at her desk, her mind struggling to process what she had heard. If the girl was telling the truth, and something in her eyes said she was, then everything Bora had taught for 60 years was wrong. Deathworlds were not unreachable. Deathworlds had intelligent life. Deathworlds had produced a species that could walk barefoot on burning sand, swim in oceans full of predators, and stand in the middle of storms that could destroy cities. And that species had just joined the Galactic Academy. Bora looked at Una standing alone in the back of the room. She was so small, so fragile-looking. 2 arms, 2 legs, soft skin that could be cut by a sharp rock. Nothing about her appearance suggested strength or danger, but her eyes told a different story. Her eyes had seen things that no garden world creature could imagine. Her eyes had watched storms, survived predators, and faced death more times than Bora had faced bad weather. "Cadet Una," Bora said slowly, "I think you need to tell us more about your world. I think we all need to understand what Earth really is." Una nodded. She stepped out from her seat and began walking down the aisle toward the front of the room. The other cadets moved away from her as she passed, pressing themselves against their seats like she was a dangerous animal. And maybe, Bora thought, she was. Maybe all humans were. Una reached the stage and turned to face the class. Behind her, the hologram of the Death World still rotated slowly in the air. She looked at it for a long moment, then looked back at her classmates. "Let me tell you about Earth," she said. "Let me tell you about home." Una stood at the front of the classroom, facing 300 alien cadets who looked at her like she was a ghost. Behind her, the hologram of the Death World cast strange shadows across her face. She was not scared. She had faced worse things than curious aliens. She had faced the wilderness of Earth. "When I was born," she began, "my mother held me in her arms and cried, not because she was sad, because she was happy. On Earth, many babies die before they are born. Many mothers die while giving birth. Just surviving that first moment is considered a victory." The cadets listened in horror. On their worlds, birth was safe. Medical technology had eliminated all risk hundreds of years ago. The idea that mothers could die from having children was unthinkable. "I grew up in a small village near the ocean," Una continued. "My father was a fisherman. He went out to sea every morning in a small boat. Every morning my mother watched him leave, and she did not know if he would come back." "Why?" asked Doha, the Marathi student. "What could happen to him?" "Many things. Storms could come without warning and sink his boat. Sharks could attack him if he fell into the water. He could get caught in his own nets and drown. He could eat poisonous fish by mistake. The sea is beautiful, but it is also a killer." She paused, remembering her childhood, the smell of salt water, the sound of waves crashing against the shore. The way her father smiled when he came home with a good catch. "One day, when I was 6 years old, my father did not come back. A storm had taken his boat. We found pieces of wood on the beach the next morning, but we never found him." Silence filled the room. The cadets did not know what to say. On their worlds, people did not just disappear. Safety systems protected everyone. The idea that the ocean could simply take someone away was beyond their understanding. After that, Yuna said, I had to learn how to take care of myself. My mother worked in the rice fields, and I helped her when I was not in school. Working in the fields was hard. The sun burned our skin. The water came up to our knees, and sometimes there were snakes hiding in it. If a snake bit you and you could not get medicine fast enough, you would die. You worked in water with snakes? Somi asked, her voice shaking. Yes, everyone did. The snakes were always there. You learned to watch for them. You learned to move slowly and carefully. Sometimes people got bitten anyway. It was just part of life. Yuna walked across the stage, her footsteps soft on the floor. The cadets watched her every move. When I was 8 years old, I learned to swim in the ocean, not in a safe pool or a controlled environment. In the actual ocean, where the waves could pull you under and the currents could carry you away. My mother tied a rope around my waist and held the other end. If I got into trouble, she would pull me back. That sounds terrifying, said a cadet from the middle of the room. It was, Yuna agreed. But it was also wonderful. The ocean is full of life, colorful fish, beautiful coral, strange creatures that glow in the dark. Of course, it is also full of danger, jellyfish that sting, eels that bite, sharks that circle and watch. But you learn to share the water with them. You learn which ones to avoid and which ones will leave you alone. She stopped walking and faced the class directly. When I was 12, I climbed my first mountain. It took 3 days to reach the top. The path was steep and narrow. One wrong step could send you falling to your death. The air got thinner as we went higher, and it became hard to breathe. At night, the temperature dropped below freezing, and we had to huddle together in a small tent to stay warm. Why would anyone do that? Taiho asked. He could not understand the purpose of such suffering. Yuna smiled. It was a strange smile, full of memories and feelings that the aliens could not understand. Because the view from the top was beautiful. Because standing on that mountain made me feel alive. Because humans need to challenge themselves. We need to test our limits. We need to know what we can survive. Instructor Bora finally spoke. Her voice was weak, like she had been holding her breath for too long. Cadet Yuna, you keep talking about survival, about death, about danger. Is there nothing on your world that is safe? Yuna thought about the question for a long moment. Safe? She repeated. I suppose there are safer places. Cities have walls and guards, houses have locks and alarms. But even in the safest places, danger exists. Cars crash on the roads, fires break out in buildings, criminals hurt innocent people, diseases spread through crowds. There is no place on Earth where you can be completely safe. She looked at the hologram behind her, studying the storms and volcanoes and frozen wastelands. But you know what? That is okay. Humans do not need to be safe. We need to be strong. We need to be smart. We need to adapt. That is how we survived for 200,000 years on a planet that tried to kill us every single day. A cadet in the front row raised a trembling hand. She was a small creature with bright orange skin and large, tearful eyes. Did you ever get hurt? She asked quietly. On Earth, I mean. Did you ever come close to dying? Yuna laughed softly. She rolled up the sleeve of her uniform and showed her arm to the class. There were scars there, lines of white and pink on her pale skin, each one telling a story. This one is from when I fell out of a tree when I was 7. I broke my arm in 2 places. This one is from a dog bite when I was 9. The dog was scared and confused, and I got too close. This one is from a cooking accident. Hot oil splashed on my skin and burned me. And this one, she pointed to a long, thin scar that ran from her elbow to her wrist. This one is from a piece of broken glass. I was running through the forest, not watching where I was going, and I fell. A sharp piece of glass cut my arm open. I had to walk 3 kilometers back to the village with blood dripping down my hand. My mother stitched the wound closed with a needle and thread. The orange-skinned cadet started crying. Others looked like they might faint. That is just my arm, Una said. I have more scars on my legs, my back, my stomach. Every human has scars. They are reminders of the times we almost died but did not. We wear them like medals. We are proud of them. She rolled her sleeve back down and looked at the class with steady eyes. I know what you are thinking. You are thinking that Earth sounds like a nightmare. You are thinking that humans must be either very stupid or very lucky to have survived there. But you are wrong. She took a step forward, and several cadets in the front row leaned back. We are not stupid. We are intelligent enough to build cities, create technology, and reach the stars. We are not lucky. We made our own luck through hard work and sacrifice. We are something else entirely. She let the words hang in the air for a moment. We are survivors. It is written in our bones. It is coded in our blood. Every human alive today is the descendant of thousands of generations who faced death and won. Every human carries the strength of 1,000,000 victories inside them. She looked at Instructor Bora, who sat frozen at her desk. You called Earth a death world. You said no intelligent species could develop there. But you were wrong. We did not just develop there, we conquered it. We became the apex predator of a planet filled with apex predators. We climbed to the top of the food chain and stayed there. She turned back to the class. And now we are here, among the stars, learning to survive in a new environment. Because that is what humans do. No matter where you put us, no matter what challenges you give us, we will find a way to survive. We will adapt. We will overcome. We will win. The classroom was silent. 300 cadets stared at the small human girl with new eyes. She was not just a cadet anymore. She was something they had never seen before. She was a child of the death world. And she was not afraid of anything. The lecture hall remained quiet for what felt like an eternity. Instructor Bora sat at her desk, her large black eyes fixed on the human girl standing at the front of the room. In 60 years of teaching, she had never felt so small, so ignorant, so afraid. Finally, Taiho stood up from his seat. The Groxy cadet was the largest student in the class, with gray skin thick as armor and muscles that could bend metal. He was known for being brave, for never backing down from a challenge, but now his voice trembled when he spoke. I need proof, he said. I need more than just words and scars. Anyone can get scars. Anyone can tell stories. How do we know you are telling the truth? Una looked at him calmly. She did not seem offended by his doubt. Instead, she nodded, as if she had expected this question. What kind of proof do you want? Taiho thought for a moment. His gray face wrinkled with concentration. The animals you mentioned, the predators. Show us what they look like. Let us see these monsters you claim to have survived. Una turned to Instructor Bora. May I use the hologram system? Bora hesitated. Part of her wanted to say no. Part of her wanted to end the class and pretend this conversation had never happened. But a larger part of her needed to know the truth. She needed to see what Earth really was. Yes, she said quietly. Go ahead. Una walked to the control panel and typed something on the screen. The hologram behind her flickered and changed. The spinning death world disappeared, replaced by an image that made every cadet in the room gasp. It was a creature unlike anything they had seen before. 4 legs, massive body, covered in golden fur. Its face was surrounded by a thick mane of darker hair, and its mouth was open, revealing teeth that could crush bone like paper. This is a lion, Una said. It is one of Earth's apex predators. It weighs around 200 kilograms and can run faster than most land animals. Lions hunt in groups called prides. They work together to bring down prey much larger than themselves. She changed the image. Now the hologram showed a creature in water, gray and smooth, with a fin cutting through the surface. Its mouth was a nightmare of sharp, triangular teeth arranged in rows. This is a great white shark. It can grow up to 6 meters long and weigh over 2,000 kilograms. It can sense blood in the water from kilometers away. When it attacks, it hits its prey with enough force to knock them unconscious. Then it eats them alive. Somi, the Fenari student, made a sound like she was going to be sick. Her brown fur had turned pale, and she was gripping the edges of her seat with all 4 hands. Yuna showed more images. Bears that could stand 3 meters tall. Wolves that hunted in packs and never gave up until their prey was dead. Crocodiles that could stay completely still for hours, waiting for something to come close enough to grab. Pythons that wrapped around their victims and squeezed until they could not breathe. These are just the large predators, Yuna explained. There are also smaller ones. Venomous snakes that can kill you with a single bite, spiders whose venom causes your flesh to rot, scorpions that hide in shoes and sting your feet when you put them on. She showed images of these creatures, too. The cadets watched in horror as snake after snake appeared on the screen, each one more terrifying than the last. King cobras that could stand as tall as a human. Black mambas that could move faster than a running person. Vipers that hid in leaves and struck without warning. And then there are the insects, Yuna continued. Mosquitoes that carry malaria, a disease that has killed more humans than all wars combined. Tsetse flies that cause sleeping sickness. Fleas that spread plague. Ticks that pass on infections that can destroy your brain. Doha, the Marathi student, suddenly stood up. His silver scales were dull with fear. "Stop!" he cried. "Please stop. I cannot listen to any more of this. It is too horrible." Yuna paused. She looked at him with something like sympathy. "I am sorry," she said. "I know this is hard to hear. But you asked for proof, and I am giving it to you. This is Earth. This is what humans live with every day." "But how?" Doha asked desperately. "How do you live with all of this? How do you leave your homes? How do you sleep at night knowing these things exist?" Yuna thought about the question. It was a fair one. To these creatures from garden worlds, the idea of living alongside such dangers must seem impossible. "We learn," she said finally. "From the moment we are born, we learn about the dangers around us. Our parents teach us. Our schools teach us. Our communities teach us. We learn which animals are dangerous and which are safe. We learn where they live and how to avoid them. We learn what to do if we encounter them." She showed a new image. This one was different. It showed a human child, maybe 5 or 6 years old, walking through a forest. The child was small and defenseless, but she walked with confidence, looking around carefully as she moved. "This could be any child on Earth," Yuna said. "By the time they are this age, they already know the basic rules of survival. Do not touch colorful frogs. Do not reach into holes you cannot see inside. Do not approach animals you do not know. Do not eat plants unless you are sure they are safe. Watch where you step. Listen to the sounds around you. Trust your instincts." Instructor Bora finally spoke. Her voice was stronger now, filled with a new kind of curiosity. "You make it sound so normal, so ordinary, as if living in constant danger is just life." "It is life," Yuna replied. "For humans, danger is not something unusual. It is the background of our existence. We do not think about it every moment of every day, just like you probably do not think about breathing. It is simply there, part of who we are." She turned off the hologram and faced the class. "But I want you to understand something important. Danger made us strong. Every predator we survived made us smarter. Every disease we fought made us more resilient. Every natural disaster we endured made us more adaptable. Earth did not destroy humanity. Earth created us." She walked back to the center of the stage. You look at Earth and see a nightmare, but I look at Earth and see my home. I see the place that taught me to never give up. I see the place that showed me what strength really means. I see the place that made me who I am." Taiho sat back down slowly. His earlier demand for proof had been answered beyond anything he expected. He looked at Yuna with new eyes, seeing not a small, fragile creature, but a warrior forged in the fires of a world that should have been impossible. "I have one more thing to show you," Yuna said. She touched the control panel again, and a new hologram appeared. It was Earth, but not the same image from before. This one showed the planet from space, a beautiful sphere of blue and green and white, floating in the darkness like a jewel. "This is my home," Yuna said softly. "It is dangerous, yes. It is deadly, yes. But it is also beautiful beyond words. The oceans sparkle in the sunlight. The forests are filled with life. The mountains touch the sky. The sunsets paint the clouds in colors you cannot imagine." She looked at the hologram with love in her eyes. "I walked Earth barefoot not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Because I wanted to feel the grass between my toes. Because I wanted to feel the sand on my feet. Because I wanted to feel connected to my world, even knowing that my world could kill me at any moment." She turned back to the class one final time. "That is what it means to be human. We love our home even though it is deadly. We face danger because life is worth living. We walk barefoot on Deathworlds because we are not afraid." The hologram of Earth continued to spin slowly behind her, beautiful and terrible at the same time, and in that moment, every cadet in the room understood something they had never understood before. Humans were not like them. Humans were something new, something different, something extraordinary. The class ended that day, but the conversation did not. Word spread through the Galactic Academy like fire through dry grass. By evening, every student on the station had heard about the human girl who claimed to have walked barefoot on a death world. By the next morning, Yuna had become the most famous cadet in Academy history. Some students were afraid of her. They whispered when she walked past and moved to the other side of the hallway when they saw her coming. They looked at her like she was a dangerous animal that had somehow escaped from a cage. Others were curious. They followed her around, asking questions about Earth, about humans, about the things she had survived. Yuna answered their questions patiently, never getting angry or annoyed. She understood that their fear came from ignorance, and she was willing to teach them. But the biggest change happened in Instructor Bora. For 3 days after the lecture, Bora did not leave her office. She sat at her desk, surrounded by data pads and holographic displays, researching everything she could find about Earth. The more she learned, the more amazed she became. Earth had an axial tilt of 23 degrees, which created extreme seasonal variations. Most garden worlds had tilts of less than 5 degrees. Earth had active plate tectonics, meaning the ground itself was constantly moving, causing earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. Most garden worlds had stable geology that had not changed in millions of years. Earth had a magnetic field that protected it from solar radiation, but that field was slowly weakening and had reversed completely many times throughout history. Most garden worlds had steady magnetic fields that never changed. And the life on Earth was even more incredible than Yuna had described. Bora found records of creatures called tardigrades that could survive in the vacuum of space. She found plants that produced chemicals deadly enough to kill a full-grown groxy in seconds. She found bacteria that lived in boiling hot springs and fungi that fed on radiation. Earth was not just a death world. It was a laboratory of survival, a planet where life had evolved to face every possible challenge and win. But what amazed Bora most was the humans themselves. She found records of humans climbing the highest mountains on Earth, where the air was so thin that their brains could not function properly. She found records of humans diving to the bottom of the ocean, where the pressure could crush a starship hull. She found records of humans walking across frozen wastelands, burning deserts, and jungles filled with predators. Humans did not just survive on Earth. They explored every corner of it, conquered every environment, and pushed themselves to the absolute limits of what was physically possible. On the fourth day, Bora called a meeting of the Academy's senior staff. 15 instructors gathered in the conference room, all of them experts in their fields. Bora stood at the front of the room just as she had stood in front of her class 4 days earlier, but this time, she was not teaching. She was warning. "We have made a terrible mistake," she said. Her voice was calm, but her words were heavy. "For centuries, we have classified planets based on their danger levels. We have assumed that intelligent life could only develop on garden worlds, where conditions were mild and safe. We have assumed that death worlds were empty, uninhabitable, unreachable." She activated a hologram showing Earth rotating slowly in the center of the room. "We were wrong. Earth is a Class 12 death world, and yet it produced a species that not only survived but thrived. Humans are not a fluke. They are not an accident. They are the product of a billion years of brutal natural selection where only the strongest, smartest, and most adaptable survived." An instructor named Hana raised her hand. She was a Valori like Bora, with pale blue skin instead of purple. "What are you suggesting, Instructor Bora? That we should be afraid of humans?" Bora shook her head slowly. "No, I am not suggesting that. But I am suggesting that we need to change the way we think about them. We have been treating Cadet Yuna like any other student, but she is not like any other student. She comes from a world that would kill any of us in hours. She has survived things that we cannot even imagine. She carries in her blood the strength of 1,000,000 ancestors who fought and died and passed on their survival instincts to the next generation." She looked around the room at the faces of her colleagues. "Humans are not fragile newcomers who need our protection. They are survivors from hell itself. And if we treat them as anything less, we are making a mistake that could define the future of the galaxy." The meeting lasted for hours. The instructors argued and debated and discussed. Some agreed with Bora. Others thought she was exaggerating. But by the end, they had reached a decision. The Academy would update its classification system. Earth would no longer be listed simply as a death world. It would be listed as the home world of humanity, a species forged in the fires of a planet that should have been impossible to survive, and Cadet Yuna would be given a special assignment. The next morning, Yuna was called to Instructor Bora's office. She walked through the door and found Bora waiting for her, along with 2 other senior instructors. They gestured for her to sit down. "Cadet Yuna," Bora began, "we have been discussing your situation. Your testimony in class has forced us to reconsider many things we thought we knew about the universe." Yuna nodded, but said nothing. She waited for Bora to continue. "We would like you to help us update our curriculum. We want to create a new course about death worlds and the species that can survive on them. We want the cadets of the Galactic Academy to understand that the universe is more dangerous and more wonderful than they ever imagined." Yuna was surprised. She had expected punishment, not opportunity. She had expected fear, not respect. "You want me to teach?" she asked. "We want you to share your experience," Bora said. "We want you to show the other cadets what it means to come from a world like Earth. We want you to help them understand that danger is not something to avoid. It is something to prepare for." Yuna thought about the offer for a long moment. She thought about her village by the ocean. She thought about her father who never came home. She thought about the scars on her arms and the memories in her heart. "Yes," she said finally, "I will help you." Bora smiled. It was a genuine smile, full of warmth and respect. "Thank you, Cadet Yuna. I believe this is the beginning of something important." And it was. Over the following months, Yuna helped create a new course called Survival Studies. She taught cadets from dozens of species how to face danger without fear. She showed them how to adapt to harsh environments, how to read the signs of incoming storms, how to recognize predators before they attacked. She taught them that survival was not about being the biggest or the strongest. It was about being smart, being prepared, and never giving up. The course became the most popular class at the academy. Cadets lined up to take it, eager to learn from the girl who had walked barefoot on a death world. Some of them became her friends. Others became her students. All of them learned to see the universe in a new way. And in the years that followed, those cadets went out into the galaxy and carried Yuna's lessons with them. They explored dangerous worlds that others were afraid to touch. They built colonies in places that seemed impossible. They faced challenges that would have defeated anyone who came from a garden world. Because they had learned the most important lesson of all. Survival is not about where you come from. It is about who you choose to become. And if a small human girl could walk barefoot on a death world, then anything was possible. In the back of the Academy's main library, there is a small plaque that tells this story. It shows a picture of Yuna standing at the front of Instructor Bora's classroom, facing 300 frightened cadets with nothing but her voice and her truth. Beneath the picture, there are 2 lines of text. The first line reads, "They taught cadets death worlds were unreachable." The second line reads, "The girl raised her hand." And every cadet who passes that plaque knows the rest of the story. She walked Earth barefoot, and she changed the galaxy forever.